You are listening to Hot Conflict Radio. Calling live every Thursday night, midnight, 12 a.m. Eastern. Call in to get your questions and comments live on the air. Dial into the show by phone 760-825-0949. You can dial in from the site on Blog Talk Radio using Skype or through a regular phone calling in at 760-825-0949. That's 760-825-0949. Get your questions and comments live on the air, talking about the weird and the wild, the strange and the supernatural, things that go bump in the night. Get on hotconflict.com.
Well, I've always, I don't see the reference of aliens in the Bible, so I don't know. And then I've heard people that have said, oh, yeah, it's all over there. I mean, I don't know. Do you see it there? Or?
Well, alien is a term that we use that just means somebody from somewhere else. Now,
right.
In the Bible and some of the ancient languages, you do have the term strangers or something strange.
Okay.
And that's the realm, meaning not of us. You have Bible at the time of Noah, right? That the sky descended and they found human fair seeming, and they even intermarried with daughters of men. We have references at the time of David and Goliath of what the Bible refers to as Nephilim, right? Those that intermixed in what we maybe.
What do you think that is?
Reference to the fact, as we've been stating, that contact with other beings might not be something that is about to happen for the first time. It might be something that's been happening for a long time, right? So is that a lot of the lore and a lot of the ancient myths all deal with the fact that different beings from different races, not meaning different races of humans, but fairies, nymphs, elves, hobbits, dwarfs, giants, greens, blues, reds, beings with different types of natures and different types of characters have always been intermixing. It's one of the reasons that the tribes of Israel, the ancient tribes of Israel, those who were chosen as the sons and daughters of Adam to receive the benefit of Moses and the commandments and the Torah, or the original Gospels, or the Pentateuch, and Solomon and David, their people, those tribes, the sons and daughters of Jacob through the 12 tribes were chosen, and they were very strict and stringent about intermarrying with the other races because they considered them to be from tribes that were alien or strange or possibly even beast-like, if you refer to some of the occult writings in like the Elders of Zion. The reason why they thought that is because they knew that at different times on the surface realm, different communities had interaction with different beings from different other realms. And that continued to happen. And people were always interested in these things. And so many people are interested in these types of issues. We've got a caller in from the area code 804. You're on the air. Would you like to get a question in?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Salim.
Islam, please go.
Okay. One thing I wanted to ask you about, I feel like I'm getting a little off topic now that we've kind of gone on this whole, as you would term, jinn study. But one of the things that, I've been listening to Hot Conflict series for about 3 years now, and I've listened to everything I think a couple times through at this point. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was somewhere in this, I want to say, in one of the earlier series, you talk about different techniques of meditation, but then I think it's in the Blue Ray series where you discuss the concept of talking with one's higher self. And I've seen a lot of on that in different, areas and different people speak on the subject. But I wanted to kind of get your take on that a little bit, as something that, if you could talk a little bit about your experience or kind of, what, I know one of the things that you said was it didn't have anything to do with the meditation or, any of the things that, you do as yourself, of course. Like Musa alayhi salam, you have to do your part even if all you can do is hit the water with a stick. So, of course, there's going to be that, the effort on your part. But, just wanted to kind of hear a little bit about, kind of your take on that concept from a Muslim perspective as well, as far as that connection with the higher self.
All right. Well, since we're trying to keep things from an Islamic perspective, let me ask you first question. Are you a Muslim yourself, and were you born or raised Muslim?
No, actually, I was raised in a Christian household, and then about 3 years ago, I was living in Houston and started studying. I was an agnostic at that point. Maybe there's God, maybe there's not. I don't know. I don't care. And that was kind of how I did things. And a couple of friends, I went over to a friend's house actually for some to see him, and he showed me. He started showing me stuff about Bohemian Grove, which I imagine you're probably familiar with. All this French stuff. And that just led on a spiral of searching for the truth. And we were going to church, but we didn't really, there are things we believed, there are things we didn't. So we said, let's, find the truth. First thing we really got on was the concept of the Annunaki and the Nephilim, as the previous caller was talking about, looking for, aliens in the Bible, and we hit a dead end on the Nephilim. Well, my buddy had a friend who was a Muslim who shared with him the concept of the Jinn. And within about a month or so, we'd spent so much time looking at all this stuff, and he turned us onto the story of truth. And at that point, we'd started praying. We'd accepted Islam, and then, I remember, it was kind of like listening to the story of truth was like my Muslim homework, learning about Islam. So thank you for making that series. So yeah, I am a Muslim. Alhamdulillah.
All right, so I'm a Muslim too, right? I was born a Muslim. My mom was Christian, but then converted before I was born. So I never really thought of anything else until I was, in my teen years and started studying it for myself. The way I would explain it now, just to use an analogy, let's say we're in a role-playing game, and it has various levels. Let's say, for example, the universal map is organized into 144 levels. And those 144 levels represent the mixing of 12 by 12 tribes. We have 12 tribes, main tribes on Earth, and then we have, let's say, another 12 tribes elsewhere. And so what I imagine is this idea that souls awaken in their realm, in their world, not having any awareness of the game levels that are above them and not having any awareness of the levels that are below them. They start unaware, just like everybody else. You're born, you're raised, you are the environment that you're in. Well, then why is it that different people are born in different environments? I mean, somebody is born a Christian, such as yourself, and somebody is born a Muslim. If it's a multi-level playing game, it seems like there's some kind of imbalance. It always seemed unfair for me. If I'm so sure that Islam is right and Islam is the final way, well, then how about all these suckers who are born whatever? And they don't even have a clue. Well, the way we start to understand it is different people end up getting to Earth through the realms of creation and in this matrix from different other levels. Meaning Earth is one of those planets that people can enter this part of the game from many other levels. And so we ended up having a strange mix where now we have a multitude of races, a multitude of cultures, a multitude of creeds, all being mixed together. From one perspective, you would say that those who are here represent the remnants of the best of each of the earlier generation's messengers who still somehow managed to keep something of their story or tale to even be in existence, right? I mean, whatever races and groups that we have and whatever religions we have are those that lasted and managed to stay this long. We have Hindus in India having lasted however long they did, and Buddhists and people who follow the I Ching. We've got Native Americans keeping their lore and culture passed down traditionally in script form or oral narration and storytelling form, each one trying to pass on the memory of, well, this, at our time, when our earliest generations were at the highest levels of light and understanding on this earth, when they remembered the higher levels of the game, they taught us this is what the Matrix is about. And as time goes on, they lose their culture, they lose their stories, they lose their understanding. Economics sweeps in, enemies sweep in, communities get destroyed. But here in our present time, everybody that's here is here because they're supposed to. And we also believe that we're on a planet where anybody can go from any level to any other level, right? We're not in a time or a place where a Buddhist can't become a Muslim or a Christian can't become a Muslim. And as we know, it goes vice versa. We're at a point where anybody can do and believe anything they want. Now, of course, people have economic hardships in different situations all over the world, but we're at a time where, strangely, this quickening is making everybody see it. And we're also at a time, since the time of the Messenger Muhammad, where Islam now has spread all over the earth, from the north to the south and the east to the west, that daily on your media and press, you're hearing about Islam everywhere. It is no longer like it was 20 or 30 years ago, that Islam is some strange religion of the Arabs having to do with, 1001 Arabian Nights or some kind of weird stuff like that. Now, it's true that most of the press and most of the media about Islam is bad coverage or bad press, but you know what they say in the media world, even bad press is still press, right? At least you're being covered. And from the point of view of people hearing about Islam and knowing about Islam, they've heard about it. So is it possible that this part of yourself in this matrix is only one part of your total being, is only a piece of it, like a mirror or a shell of it? That if this world was a world of forgetfulness where you went to go learn lessons, you wouldn't totally immerse yourself in it and get lost. You would possibly break a fractal of yourself, a fraction of yourself. You would be a fract individual, a fractal being who descended part of himself in the game to play and grow aware. And to be totally in the movie, to be totally in the game, you're going to forget that you're a higher being and a higher self, and you're going to not know these things. So when we talk about understanding that we have a higher self, there are concepts like this from the examples of the Sunnah given about the Day of Judgment, that Allah will show on the Day of Judgment your higher self and your lower self, meaning the being, the entity, the consciousness, the individual consciousness that is you, the being that is you, the choices that you make because your nature, if you would have taken all lefts and gone all wrong turns, here's where you could have ended up. And if you made all right turns, here's your higher self. These things are things that will be shown to you as an extrapolation of the matrix system here. If this character made all the left choices, what would happen? And if they made all the positive choices or right choices, what would happen? That's one of the miracles about the Day of Judgment, that you will see the whole outplay. And strangely, a lot of times in pop culture, you see this concept where people have that dying moment that their life flashes before their eyes and all their past selves merge into one, and they see the true reality of all that is. So when other people are talking about their higher self, you're talking about trying to find that truest thing that Allah made you for. Now, if you start sitting around and saying, well, you're sitting around in the room and talking to yourself, and somebody walks in and they say, who are you talking to? And you're like, oh, I'm just talking to myself. Well, yeah, sometimes you sound crazy. I'm just talking to my higher self. So we have this concept, obviously, you see it in cartoons where they draw the little good angel and the bad angel. Well, we know in Islam you have angels, kiram and katibin, that are scribes, but they're not whispering, right? When we know that the jinns and the other beings sometimes whisper and manipulate into your mind, it's like a psychological mental manipulation. Well, at the same time, there are good thoughts, pure thoughts, true thoughts, honest feelings, things that resonate deeply within your heart. These things also are what we call the true nature of your highest self. Like, you know and I know that we haven't made the best decisions in the world. Everything that we've done hasn't been the right choice. Of course, there is perfection in all that is, right? We don't look at the past and say, oh, I wish I didn't do this and I wish I didn't do that. But there always is a better way to do things. I yell at my kid for making a mess. Well, I could have said it softly and told the kid nicely, hey, you shouldn't do this. There's always a better way. There's always a more superior way. There's always a nicer way, right? And so these are the things we start to go into. What is the highest act? What is the most true noble service? What is the sabab, or the reason for your very creation, right? There are so many beings, and there's so many humans, and there's plenty of people walking around. Why did Allah choose to make you? Why did Allah choose to make you the way you are? Why did Allah specifically give you certain characteristics? Now, that's not about saying, oh, God, why did you make me like this? I'm so upset at my flaws and faults. No, it's about understanding. And that's what people mean when you talk about seeing from your higher self, as if you know that you're in a matrix or in a game, that you have a bird's eye view or an eagle's eye view or a deeper insight, that from the point of view of a visionary, you see yourself outside of the game looking in, that you're a character playing a game and you have been given these attributes. In a multi-level playing game, some person's the sorcerer, some person's the elf, some person's a dwarf, some person's a mage. In this realm, you were born with these characteristics. You were born in this place, with this mother, with this father, with this language, with this culture. And you have the right to change certain attributes about yourself and your nature and your culture, and change things about yourself. And that's part of the journey, and tweaking it and recognizing, all right, what are my pros and cons if I take account of myself, if I analyze myself, if I were to judge myself and not judge others, if I were to really get into that, right? How would that be? And so we have these concepts embedded through many different areas.
You are listening to Hot Conflict Radio. Conlin Live. Every Thursday night, midnight, 12 a.m. Eastern. Call in to get your questions and comments live on the air. Dial into the show by phone 760-825-0949. You can dial in from the site on Blog Talk Radio using Skype or through a regular phone calling in at 760-825-0949. That's 760-825-0949. Get your questions and comments live on the air, talking about the weird and the wild, the strange and the supernatural. Things that go bump in the night. Get on hotconflict.com.